Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Hanuman Prasad. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, IARE, which is located at Dundigal. The topic that I am going to discuss in today's session is from Module 5, Gender and Culture. And the name of the topic is Rosa Parks. Okay, she is a great woman. So, as a part of gender sensitization, we are going to discuss about her life story. Okay, to inspire the gender equality in all the minds. And the contents that I am going to discuss as a part of this topic are introduction, civil rights, standing up for her rights, arresting Rosa, boycott of the bus system, inspiration to others, and finally, references. Let's look at each and every content in detail. First of all, introduction. So let's look at the introduction of Rosa Parks, an inspiring woman. On the right side, Rosa Parks' image is there. You can go through it. Rosa Parks was born on 4th February 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama, a southeastern state of America. Okay, where the legendary woman born? She was born in Tuskegee, Alabama, southeastern state of America on 4th February 1913. Okay. She grew up on a farm with her brother, mother and grandparents. Okay? Brother, mother and grandparents. She worked as a seamstress after she left school. So, how she worked? She worked as a seamstress after she left the school. So, what does seamstress mean? Seamstress means that a job of sewing and making clothes. What does seamstress mean? Sewing and making clothes. Okay. So she worked as a seamstress after she left the school, which belongs to sewing and making of clothes. Okay. Rosa Parks became a civil rights icon when she refused to leave her bus seat for a white passenger in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955. Okay. In the year 1955, Rosa Parks became a civil rights icon. How she became a civil rights icon? When she refused to leave her bus seat for a white passenger. There is a racism. So, black people have to sit separately and white people have to sit separately. And in case if white people are more in number, the black people have to sacrifice their seats. So that kind of racism is there and that kind of partiality is there. So to achieve gender equality, so all those things should be removed. Okay. So that is why we are studying the history of Rosa Parks in gender sensitization. Okay. So you should understand why we are studying her history and her legendary role in removing the racism and partiality of gender. Okay. So from that time in 1955 she became the civil rights icon. Okay. Because like everyone, she didn't give her seat for the white passenger. She refused to give her seat for the white passenger in Montgomery, Alabama, 1955. Okay. So by looking at this introduction, I hope you have a little bit spark in your mind. Now let's move on to the next content. Civil rights. Black people means African Americans living in Alabama were not treated equally to white Americans. Okay, black people were not treated equally to white Americans. Who are the black people? African Americans. Okay, who are living in Alabama were not at all treated equally to white Americans. So they did not have equal rights, right? So they are not treated equally to white Americans means they did not have equal rights with remaining people such as white Americans. For example, black people and white people had to sit in certain seats on the bus. They should not sit together, as I told. You can see the image on the right side. Black people have to sit separately, white people have to sit separately in certain seats allotted to them. Okay, that too partiality. White people have too much luxurious seats, and black people have normal seats. And in that normal seats also, white people have to occupy if they are more in number. Means they have to get more preference in those days. Okay, otherwise it is crime according to them. Okay, let's see how they did remove that racism and gender partiality or gender discrimination. Okay, so if all the white seats were taken, then a black person had to stand up to let the white person sit down. If all the white seats are occupied, then the black person had to stand up. Means he has to leave his seat, he has to sacrifice his seat to let the white person sit down. Okay, so in that also they are allotting not proper seats to black people or African Americans. In that also they have to leave their seats if all the white seats are occupied. Okay, and it is not the case if all the white people are having their seats and black people are extra. So they never sacrifice, they never leave their seats. And instead, if black people do not stand from their seats or do not leave their seats, they treat that as a crime and they will punish them and they will send them to jail. That kind of law is there at that time. Okay, and this was the law in Alabama. In Alabama, this was the law that they used to practice. Okay, so let's see how they overcome this issue and how they brought gender equality. Let's see in the next contents. The next content is standing up for her rights. On 1st December 1955, after coming home from a hard day's work, Rosa was sitting on the bus when the bus driver ordered her to give up her seat to a white man who couldn't find a seat in the white section of the bus. Okay, so what happened on 1st December of 1955? After coming home from a hard days of work, means she worked as seamstress, right? Sewing and making clothes. So after coming home from hard days of work, Rosa was sitting on the bus when the bus driver ordered her to give up her seat to a white man who couldn't find a seat in the white section of the bus. So what do you think? Did she give up her seat or did she reject? Obviously, we are studying about her means she rejected. Okay, so are you going to stand up? The bus driver James Blake asked. What the bus driver James Blake asked? Are you going to stand up? She answered no. Rosa Parks answered no. Then the bus driver replied that, well, by God, I am going to have you arrested. So as I told, this was the law in Alabama. So then he got angry for rejecting to leave her seat. And he replied, well, by God, I am going to have you arrested. I am going to have you arrested. Then what she replied? You may do that, Mrs. Fox responded. She didn't get fear. She didn't afraid. She confidently said that you may do that. Okay, so that kind of guts should be there as par with men. Okay, then only we can achieve the gender equality and we can understand the gender sensitization is achieved in the society. Okay, if that kind of things, if that kind of guts are having by girls or women. Okay, so how guts she has, you can understand. So after coming home from a hard days of work, she was sitting on the bus when the bus driver ordered her to give up her seat. She refused to leave her seat. So he asked her, "Are you going to stand up?" She replied, "No." "Well, by God, I am going to have you arrested." When the bus driver replied like that, then she confidently replied that, "You may do that." Okay, she didn't have right. Now let's look at the next content. Arresting Rosa. Found guilty of breaking the law which required black people to give up their bus seats to whites, Rosa Parks was fined $14 rupees. Okay? By breaking that law, she was about to pay a fine of $14 rupees. How crucial it was, you can assume. You could assume. Okay? In that time also, she had lot of guts. So one should be like that in that kind of critical situations. Then only one could overcome those kind of issues and one could get success from those kind of issues. Okay? And one could get revolution to get a good things out of bad things. Okay? Rosa is bailed from jail by her friend Mr. E.D. Nixon, another civil rights leader. So when she was arrested, then she was bailed from the jail by her friend Mr. E.D. Nixon, who is another civil rights leader. So since she is a civil rights leader, she has that kind of revolution thoughts to fight the bad. Then her friends are obviously like that only. Mr. E.D. Nixon, who is a civil rights leader, and he helped her to give the bail from the jail. Okay, so finally he bailed her from the jail. Who is he? Mr. E.D. Nixon. And what is he? He is a civil rights leader. Okay, now let's move on to the next content. You can see here how she was getting arrested, how pathetic situation it was. Okay, be bold, be brave. Okay, and let's look on to the next content. Boycott of the bus system. By boycotting the buses, they hoped to change the laws of segregation. So this kind of separation topic is there, na? Boys, blacks and whites have to sit separately, and even blacks have to leave their seats for the white seats. The white section seats are fully occupied. Okay, so by boycotting the buses, they have shown a sign that they're going to change the laws of segregation. Okay, so you can see how the buses were stopped. Okay, so that is the sign of changing the laws of that kind of negative segregation of blacks and whites. Okay, the buses depended on African Americans to keep their buses running. Okay, so the buses will not run if the African Americans are not using the bus service. But even though they are depending on them, they have the crucial laws imposed on them. So how pathetic situation it was, and how racism worked on them. They have lot of racism in their brain. Okay, and to overcome this racism concept, she fought like anything. Okay, so the buses depended on African Americans to keep their buses running. The boycott went on for 13 months, more than 1 year. 1 year, 1 month. Okay, 1 year, 1 month. Instead of riding the buses to work, many African American people in Montgomery Alabama found other ways to get to work. Okay, instead of going by bus to the work, then they found other ways to get to work. They found other ways means they have gone by foot. They have gone on foot to their workplace. Okay, they got to work by walking, as I said, and some people by cycling, and some people by sharing cars. So they stopped using bus service because of the injustice or racism issue happened to them. So they stopped bus service and they used other ways to get to work, such as walking, means using the feet, cycling, means using the bicycles, and sharing cars, means using the journey using cars. Okay. The boycott ended when the US Supreme Court ruled that the segregation laws on Alabama's buses were not legal. So finally, Supreme Court ruled that, what Supreme Court ruled? US Supreme Court ruled that the segregation laws on Alabama's buses were not at all legal, were illegal. Not legal means what? Illegal. So finally, US Supreme Court has ruled the correct thing. Okay, has ruled the correct way. That the segregation of Alabama's buses, the segregation laws regarding Alabama's buses were illegal. Okay, so this issue was sorted. Okay, so how daring and dashing movement it is. For 13 months, they have boycotted the buses, and it went for 13 months. You can imagine, 1 year, 1 month. Okay, so they have gone to work by walking or by cycling or by sharing cars. So finally, Supreme Court agreed that those rules are illegal. Okay, those rules means segregation of Alabama's buses. Okay, segregation laws on Alabama's buses were illegal. Yes. Now let's look on to the next content. Inspiration to others. How she became inspiration to others? By this kind of revolution, by this kind of patience, by this kind of removing the bad from society, removing especially racism from the society, okay, gender discrimination from the society. So she has done all these things. She has contributed nicely towards removal of this racism and gender discrimination. So Rosa was given the nickname the mother of civil rights movement. So who is the mother of the civil rights movement? Rosa Parks. Who has given this nickname? Let's see. She inspired revolutionist Martin Luther King and others to protest for equal rights in America. Okay. Whom she inspired? She inspired revolutionist Martin Luther King and obviously others to protest for equal rights in America. Okay, means to remove racism. To remove racism. So she got success in that issue. Okay, so it was a huge revolution against the whites. Okay, in Alabama. So for that purpose, she was called the mother of civil rights movement. Okay, she inspired the legends like Martin Luther King and many other people to protest for equal rights in America. Okay, now let's look at the next content. So the Rosa's end. Rosa's end. Sadly, Rosa died on 24th October 2005. 24th October 2005. And when she born? She born on 4th February 1913. 1913. And she died on 2005. So 2005 minus 1913. 290. So almost 92 years she has survived. So she had contributed lot of such things to get the gender discrimination issues solved. Okay. So sadly Rosa died on 24th October of 2005. She will be remembered for standing up for what she believed, inspiring others to change the world for better. Okay? She was remembered, she will be remembered for standing up for what she believed, inspiring others to change the world for better things. Okay. And we will end this presentation of this PPT with a quotation by Rosa Parks. The real reason of my not standing up was I felt that I had a right to be treated as any other passenger. Rosa Parks, 1992. Okay. The real reason of my not standing up was I felt that I had a right to be treated as any other passenger. Okay, that is the quote by her, Rosa Parks. This quote was given in the year 1992. And when this happened, 1955, this happened. Okay, so she didn't stand up and police have arrested her. And luckily, not luckily, by her hard work, she maintained a lot of civil rights leaders as her friends because she has the similar thoughts. Okay, what is his name? His name is Mr. E.D. Nixon. He gave bail to her when she was arrested. Okay, so the real reason of my not standing up was I felt that I had a right to be treated as any other passenger. So this quote was given by her in the year 1992. Okay, by taking this warm inspiration from Rosa Parks, we'll end up this session. The references I followed were Gender Studies by Kadambari and Gender Sensitization by Rajalakshmi Kalyani, and finally Wikipedia for the Rosa Parks history. Okay, Rosa Parks history and her background and her movements, how she fought for the removal of gender discrimination, racism and all. Okay, so thank you very much for your kind attention and all the very best.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.